Dr. Amanda Blake wiped the sweat from her forehead as she worked inside the ancient ruins. The planet Xerion Prime was hot and dusty, nothing like the green world Earth used to be. She had been digging here for 3 months, looking for clues about the people who once lived on this dead world. The research ship Meridian floated in orbit above them. Commander Jake Morrison had given her team 6 more weeks to find something important, or they would have to leave and go to the next planet. Amanda knew this was her last chance to prove that these old ruins held secrets worth knowing. Her partner, Dr. Carl Peterson, called out from across the dig site. "Amanda, you need to see this right now." She put down her tools and walked over to where Carl was working. He had found something that made her heart beat faster. It was a wall covered in strange symbols, but these symbols were different from anything they had seen before. "Look at this," Carl said, pointing at the wall. "These symbols are not from the people who lived here. They are much older. And Amanda, I think I can read some of them." Amanda looked closer at the wall. The symbols seemed to glow with a soft blue light when she got near them. "What do they say?" Carl pulled out his translation device and pointed it at the symbols. The machine beeped and showed words on its screen. "It says something about a warning, something about the third rock from a star." "Amanda, I think they are talking about Earth." "That cannot be right," Amanda said. "These ruins are 50,000 years old. How could they know about Earth?" But as Carl worked on more of the symbols, the message became clearer. The wall was covered in warnings written in many different alien languages. All of them said the same thing in different ways. They all warned about Earth and the people who lived there. One message said, "Beware the sleeping giant of the third rock. When the children of Terra awaken their birthright, the galaxy will tremble." Another message said, "The inheritors of the Voidwalkers will rise. When they remember what they are, the old order will end." Amanda felt cold despite the hot air around them. "Carl, this does not make sense. Why would ancient aliens write warnings? About humans? We have only been in space for 400 years. Carl shook his head. "I do not know, but there is more. Look at these symbols here. They keep using the same word over and over again. The translation says it means the chosen ones, or the inheritors. They worked for hours, copying every symbol and taking pictures of the wall. As the day went on, they found more walls with the same warnings. Each wall was in a different part of the city, as if the people who lived here wanted to make sure someone would find these messages. When night came, they went back to their camp and called Commander Morrison on the radio. "Morrison here," came the voice from the ship above them. "Commander, we found something big," Amanda said. "We need to talk to you right away. Can it wait until morning?" "I am in the middle of checking our supply reports." "No, sir, it cannot wait. These ruins have warnings about Earth written all over them. Warnings that are 50,000 years old." There was silence on the radio for a long moment. Then Morrison said, "I am coming down to see this myself." 2 hours later, Morrison arrived at their camp with 3 other officers from the ship. Amanda and Carl showed them the walls and explained what they had found. Morrison looked at the symbols and frowned. This has to be some kind of mistake. How could aliens who lived 50,000 years ago know about Earth? "That is what we thought too," Carl said. "But the translations are clear. They are warning about humans. They call us the children of Terra and say we will inherit something called the Ancient Flame." One of the officers, Lieutenant Tony Rodriguez, looked worried. "Commander, what if this is not the only place with these warnings? What if other dig teams have found the same thing?" Morrison thought about this. "Contact all the other archaeological teams in this sector. Ask them if they have found anything like this." It took 3 days to hear back from all the teams. The answers made everyone worried. Dr. Helen Grant's team on Kepler 9 had found similar warnings. Captain Ryan Murphy's team on Vega 3 had found the same symbols in caves there. In total, 17 different dig sites had found warnings about Earth. And humans thought all the warnings were from different alien races. All the warnings were very old, and all of them said the same basic thing. Humans were dangerous, and when they woke up to what they really were, everything in the galaxy would change. Amanda sat in her tent, looking at all the data they had collected. Something about these warnings felt important, but also scary. Why had so many different alien races been afraid of humans? What did they know that humans did not know about themselves? Carl came into the tent with more news. Amanda, I finished. Translating the last wall. This one is different. It does not just warn about humans. It tells a story. What kind of story? It says that long ago, there was a race called the progenitors. They were very powerful and very wise. But something threatened them, something from outside the galaxy. Before they disappeared, they created a new race to take their place. They created humans. Amanda felt her hands shake as she read Carl's translation. It says humans were made to be guardians of the galaxy? Yes, but there is more. It says the progenitors hid their knowledge and power inside human DNA. When humans spread across the galaxy, this hidden power would wake up. That is what all these alien races were afraid of. They knew humans would become more powerful than any of them. Amanda stood up and walked outside her tent. She looked up at the stars and wondered if what they had found was really true. Were humans really created by an ancient race to protect the galaxy? And if so, why did that idea scare her so much? Back on the ship, Morrison was sending reports to Earth about what they had found. He did not know that his message would reach the Galactic Council first, or that it would start a chain of events that would change everything for humans and aliens alike. The warnings had been ignored for 50,000 years. Now, finally, someone was listening, and the galaxy would never be the same. The news from Zarian Prime traveled fast through space. Within 2 weeks, every major government in the galaxy had heard about the ancient warnings. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting at Alpha Centauri Station, the largest space station ever built. General Lisa Carter packed her bags on Earth, getting ready to represent humanity at the council meeting. She had been Earth's voice in galactic politics for 5 years, but she had never faced anything like this before. As her ship flew toward Alpha Centauri, she read the reports from Dr. Blake's team over and over again. The warnings were clear. But what did they really mean? Were humans really created by ancient aliens? And if so, why should that scare anyone? At the same time, ships from 12 different alien races were heading to the same meeting. Each race had their own fears and their own plans for what to do about the human problem. The Corvan hegemony sent their strongest general, War Prime Fekmer. The Corvans were a military race who believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. They had ruled their part of the galaxy for thousands of years by conquering weaker races. The idea that humans might become more powerful than them made Fekmer very angry. The Zenthi Collective sent their mind speaker, Veltar. The Zenthi could read thoughts and speak without using their mouths. They were worried because they could not read human minds very well. Humans thought in ways that confused the Zenthi, and that made them nervous. The Altarian Empire sent Council Leader Vexthari, a tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms. The Altarians were traders who made money by keeping peace in the galaxy. They were worried that a war with humans would be bad for business. The strangest representative was from the Nexus, a group of intelligent machines that had been alive for millions of years. They sent a robot body controlled by their main computer. The machines were curious about humans because human brains worked in ways their computers could not copy. The meeting began in a huge round room with seats for all the different races. General Carter sat in the human section, feeling very small compared to some of the giant aliens around her. Council leader Vexthari stood up and spoke first. "We are here because of troubling news from the archaeological teams. It seems that many ancient races left warnings about humanity. We must decide what these warnings mean and what we should do about them." War Prime Fakmer jumped up from his seat. His voice was loud and angry. "The warnings are clear. Humans are a threat to all of us. We should act now before they become too powerful to stop." General Carter stood up to reply. "The warnings do not say humans will attack anyone. They just say humans will change. Change is not always bad." The Zenthi mind speaker, Veltar, spoke without moving his mouth. His words appeared inside everyone's heads. "We have studied human minds for many years. Humans think differently than other races. They are unpredictable. This makes them dangerous." Dr. Nathan Price, a human scientist who had come with General Carter, asked to speak. "May I share what we have learned from studying the warnings?" Vexthari nodded, and Dr. Price walked to the center of the room. He had spent 2 weeks studying all the ancient texts that had been found. "The warnings are not about human aggression," he said. "They are about something hidden in human genetics. Something left there by a race called the progenitors. These progenitors disappeared long ago, but they left parts of themselves inside human DNA." A new voice spoke from the back of the room. It was Elder Sithkar of the Ethereal Communion, an ancient race that was said to be very wise. "I have heard of the progenitors. My people have stories about them that are very old. They were guardians of the galaxy before they vanished." War Prime Fakmer slammed his fist on his chair. "Stories and legends. What matters is that humans are growing stronger every day. They have spread to hundreds of worlds in just a few centuries. No other race has expanded so fast." The robot from the Nexus spoke in a voice that sounded like a computer. "Our calculations show that human expansion will continue at an increasing rate. In 1,000 years, they will outnumber all other races combined." General Carter felt her heart beating fast. The mood in the room was getting more hostile toward humans. "We have never attacked any of your races. We have followed all the galactic laws. Why are you treating us like criminals?" Elder Sithkar stood up slowly. He was very old, even for his long-lived race. "The warnings were not meant to make us fear humans. They were meant to prepare us for what is coming." "What do you mean?" asked Vexthari. "The progenitors did not disappear for no reason. They were fighting something from outside our galaxy. If they put their power into humans, it was because they knew this threat would return." The room became very quiet. The idea of a threat from outside the galaxy scared everyone more than humans did. Dr. Price spoke up again. "Elder Sithkar is right. We found references to something called the Devourers in some of the ancient texts. They seem to be the reason. The progenitors created humans." War Prime Fakmer did not want to hear about outside threats. "This is all just guessing. What we know for sure is that humans are changing. These genetic programs that are supposedly hidden in their DNA, what happens when they activate? We do not know," General Carter admitted. "But we are not asking you to trust us blindly. We want to work together to understand what is happening." But the council was already splitting into groups. Some races, led by the Corvins, wanted to control or attack humans before they became too powerful. Others, led by the Altarians, wanted to study humans carefully and watch for signs of danger. A few races, following Elder Sithkar, thought the warnings should be taken seriously as preparation for a greater threat. The arguments went on for days. Some aliens thought humans should be moved to a small part of the galaxy where they could be watched. Others thought human colonies should be destroyed before whatever was hidden in their DNA could wake up. General Carter tried to keep the peace, but she could see that fear was winning. Many of the alien races had lived comfortably for thousands of years. The idea that everything might change because of humans was too scary for them to accept. On the last day of the meeting, the council could not agree on what to do. They decided to vote on 3 choices: contain humans in a small area, study them closely while limiting their expansion, or do nothing and wait to see what happened. The vote was close, but the choice to limit human expansion won. General Carter was given 30 days to convince Earth's government to accept new rules about where humans could travel and live. As the meeting ended, Elder Sith Kar walked up to General Carter. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "Fear makes people do foolish things. But remember, the warnings were not about humans being evil. They were about humans being important. Do not let fear make you forget what you are meant to become." General Carter flew back to Earth with a heavy heart. She had to tell her people that the galaxy was afraid of them, and that their freedom to explore space was about to be taken away. She did not know that while she was traveling home, the first signs of the ancient awakening had already begun. Strange things were happening on human worlds across the galaxy. Old alien machines that had been silent for millions of years were starting to turn on. And in the depths of space, something that had been sleeping for a very long time was beginning to stir. Strange things began happening all across human space. It started small, with reports that most people ignored or explained away. But Tony Rodriguez knew something big was happening when the machines under Luna Base started talking. Tony was an engineer who had worked on the moon for 8 years. He knew every piece of equipment in the underground sections of the base. So when lights started turning on in areas that had been dark for decades, he went to investigate. Deep beneath the surface of the moon, in tunnels the human miners had dug 50 years ago, Tony found something that should not have been there. Ancient machines were built into the walls of the tunnels. They looked like they had been waiting there for millions of years. "Control, this is Rodriguez," he said into his radio. "I found something down here that you need to see." The base commander, Colonel Kate Mason, came down to look at what Tony had found. The machines were unlike anything humans had ever built. They were made of materials that seemed to glow with their own light, and they hummed with energy even though no one had turned them on. "How long have these been here?" Colonel Mason asked. "I have no idea," Tony said. "The records show we dug these tunnels ourselves, but these machines were definitely here before we arrived. It is like they were hidden and only now decided to show themselves." Similar discoveries were happening on Mars, Europa, and human colonies across 12 star systems. Ancient technology was appearing in places where humans lived and worked. The machines seemed to activate when humans got close to them, as if they recognized something about human presence. Dr. Helen Grant was working in her laboratory on Earth when she made a discovery that explained everything. She had been studying human DNA for 20 years, focusing on the parts that most scientists called junk code. These were sections of genetic material that seemed to serve no purpose. But when Dr. Grant used the newest scanning technology, she found something amazing. The junk code was not junk at all. It was a computer program written in the language of DNA itself. "This is impossible," she said to her assistant, Dr. Peter Collins. "Someone wrote software into our genetic code. Real, working software that has been sleeping in every human cell for our entire existence as a species." Dr. Collins looked at the data on their screens. "What does the software do?" "I am not sure yet, but it seems to be activating. Look at these readings from human colonies across the galaxy. Every time humans discover one of these ancient machines, the genetic code in nearby humans becomes more active. Meanwhile, in the Vega system, Captain Ryan Murphy was having the strangest day of his 20-year career in space exploration. His ship, the Vanguard, had found what looked like a small planet, but when they got closer, they realized it was artificial. "It is a space station," said Lieutenant Kelly Barnes, his navigation officer, "but it is huge. Bigger than anything any known race has ever built." This station was dark and had been floating in space for what looked like millions of years. But when Captain Murphy's ship got within 1,000 kilometers of it, lights began turning on all across the massive structure. "Captain," said Communications Officer Scott Adams, "we are receiving a signal from the station. It is in perfect English." Captain Murphy felt a chill run down his spine. "Put it on speakers." A voice filled the bridge of their ship. It sounded like a computer, but somehow warm and alive at the same time. "Welcome, children of Terra. I am the custodian. I have been waiting for you for a very long time. This is Captain Ryan Murphy of the Earthship Vanguard. Who are you, and how do you know our language?" "I know your language because I helped design your people," the custodian replied. "You are the inheritors of the progenitors. You carry within you the tools and knowledge needed to fulfill your purpose." Captain Murphy exchanged worried looks with his crew. "What purpose?" "You are the guardians of the galaxy, Captain Murphy. You were created to protect all life from threats that come from beyond the stars. The time of your awakening has come." Before Captain Murphy could ask more questions, his ship was gently pulled into the massive station. The custodian's voice guided them to a docking bay that seemed to have been built specifically for human ships. "Do not be afraid," the custodian said. "I will show you what you need to know." Back on Earth, the Galactic Council's decision to limit human expansion was causing problems. Admiral Susan Hayes was in charge of Earth's Space Defense Forces, and she had just received word that Corvin ships were moving toward human colonies in the outer systems. "They are not supposed to attack us," said General Carter, who had returned from the council meeting with bad news. But War Prime Thigmer convinced his government that humans are too dangerous to leave alone. Admiral Hayes looked at the star charts showing Corvin ship movements. "If they attack our colonies, we will have to fight back, but we are outnumbered 10-1. The first battle happened near the human colony on Kepler 7. 3 Corvin warships attacked the colony's defense platforms, demanding that all humans leave the system immediately. The human defenders fought back, but they were badly outgunned. Then something strange happened. Just as the Corvin ships were about to destroy the colony, the human defenders began fighting better than they ever had before. Their aim became perfect. Their reaction times became impossibly fast. It was as if something inside them had awakened and was helping them fight. The Corvins were forced to retreat, confused by how a handful of human defenders had beaten their superior forces. Dr. Grant watched news reports of the battle from her laboratory on Earth. "Peter, look at this," she said to her assistant. The genetic programs in humans near the battle site became much more active during the fighting. "What are you saying?" "I think the ancient software in our DNA responds to threats. It makes us better fighters, better thinkers, better at everything we need to survive." Similar battles were happening across human space. Each time aliens attacked human colonies, the defenders fought with skills they did not know they had. And each battle seemed to activate more of the hidden programs in human genetics. Dr. Michelle Lopez, a physicist working on Europa, made another important discovery. She found that humans who spent time near the awakened ancient machines began showing new abilities. Some could sense things happening far away. Others could understand alien languages without training. A few could even interface directly with advanced technology, using only their thoughts. "The machines are not just turning on," she reported to Earth. "They are changing us. They are unlocking parts of our minds and bodies that have been sleeping. Since humans first appeared, Meanwhile, Captain Murphy and his crew were learning incredible things from the custodian. The ancient AI showed them vast databases of information about galactic history, advanced technology, and the true purpose of humanity. The progenitors faced a threat from outside this galaxy, the custodian explained. Beings that consume entire realities. We call them the Devourers. The progenitors used the last of their power to create barriers around this galaxy, and to design a race that could maintain those barriers. You mean humans? Yes, humans were designed to be the ultimate guardians. You have abilities that no other race possesses. You can inspire unity among different species. You can adapt to any environment. And most importantly, you can resist the reality-warping effects of the Devourers. Lieutenant Barnes asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Are the Devourers coming back? The custodian's voice became serious. The barriers are weakening. They were only meant to last until humanity was ready to take over the defense of the galaxy. That time is now. Back on Earth, government leaders were trying to understand what was happening to their people. Reports were coming in from every human world about awakening machines, new abilities, and humans performing impossible feats in battle against alien attackers. President Amanda Foster called an emergency meeting with her top advisors. Are we still human? She asked Dr. Grant, who had been brought in to explain the genetic changes. We are more human than we have ever been, Dr. Grant replied. These programs were always part of us. We are just finally becoming what we were. Always meant to be. The awakening was accelerating. Every day, more humans discovered new abilities. Every day, more ancient technology revealed itself. And every day, the galaxy became more afraid of what humanity was becoming. But the greatest test was still coming. In the dark spaces between galaxies, something ancient and hungry had noticed that the barriers protecting this galaxy were getting weaker. The Devourers were starting to stir, and soon they would test whether humanity was truly ready to fulfill their destiny as guardians of all life. The truth about humanity's purpose became clear when Dr. Peter Collins made contact with the custodian AI. Working from Earth, he had learned to communicate with the ancient machines that were awakening across human space. What the custodian told him changed everything. The progenitors did not disappear, the custodian explained during one of their conversations. They chose to become something greater. They transcended physical existence, but before they did, they created humanity to carry on their most important work. Dr. Collins was in his laboratory, surrounded by screens showing data from awakened machines across the galaxy. What work is that? Protecting all life from the Devourers. These beings exist partially outside normal reality. They consume entire galaxies by breaking down the barriers between dimensions. The progenitors spent millions of years building defenses around this galaxy, but those defenses need guardians. Captain Kelly Barnes had taken command of a joint human expedition to the center of the galaxy. Her fleet of 12 ships was the largest exploration mission humanity had ever sent into the galactic core. They were following coordinates provided by the custodian, searching for something called the Central Nexus. The journey took 3 months, through space that no human had ever seen before. As they got closer to the galactic center, they awakened. Humans on the ships began sensing something massive ahead of them. Captain, said Navigator Tony Rodriguez, I am picking up a structure that is impossible to measure. It is bigger than entire star systems. When they finally saw the Central Nexus, the entire crew stood in stunned silence. It was a construction that stretched across thousands of light years, made of materials that seemed to bend space itself. Millions of ancient machines worked together in perfect harmony, maintaining something that looked like a vast energy field surrounding the entire galaxy. This is it, said Dr. Michelle Lopez, who had joined the expedition. This is what has been protecting us from the Devourers for millions of years. But as they got closer to the central nexus, they could see that something was wrong. Parts of the massive structure were dark and failing. The energy field around the galaxy had holes in it that were growing larger every day. The custodian's voice reached them even here, at the center of the galaxy. The defenses are failing faster than we expected. The progenitors designed the system to last until humanity was ready to take over maintenance, but the awakening process is taking longer than planned. Captain Barnes led a team of awakened humans to one of the Central Nexus's control stations. When they got close to the ancient machinery, something remarkable happened. The machines recognized them and began responding to their presence. "I can feel it," said Dr. Lopez, holding her hands near one of the control panels. "It is like the machine is talking directly to my mind." One by one, the awakened humans learned to interface with the progenitor technology. It was not like using a computer or a tool. It was like the machines became extensions of their own thoughts and bodies. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Helen Grant was making discoveries about human abilities that seemed impossible. Humans who had spent time near awakened machines were developing telepathy, enhanced intuition, and the ability to sense things happening across vast distances. "We are becoming something new," she told President Foster during a briefing. "Not less human, but more human than humans have ever been before." The president looked worried. "Are we still in control of our own minds?" "More than ever," Dr. Grant assured her. "The awakening process does not take away our free will. It gives us the tools we need to make choices that matter on a galactic scale." But not everyone was happy about the changes happening to humanity. Some humans were afraid of their new abilities and tried to avoid the awakened machines. Some alien races were preparing for war, convinced that humanity was becoming too dangerous to exist. The Corvan hegemony had gathered the largest war fleet in their history. War Prime Thakmer was determined to destroy humanity before they became too powerful to stop. He had convinced several other races to join him, including some factions within the Zenthi Collective and the Altarian Empire. "The humans must be stopped now," Thakmer declared to his assembled fleet commanders. "Every day they grow stronger. Soon it will be too late." But Elder Sith Kar of the Ethereal Communion had been studying the ancient records of his people. He found references to the progenitors and the great threat they had faced. When he learned about the failing defenses around the galaxy, he realized that the alien races were making a terrible mistake. "We should be helping the humans, not fighting them," he told the Galactic Council during an emergency session. "The barriers around our galaxy are breaking down. Something worse than humans is coming." Most of the council members did not believe him. They were too focused on their fear of human power to think about threats from outside the galaxy. Admiral Susan Hayes was preparing Earth's defenses for the coming war when she received an unexpected message. It came from humans at the Central Nexus, and it contained information that made her blood run cold. "Admiral," Captain Barnes reported via long-range communication, "we have detected movement in the void between galaxies. The custodian says they are Devourer scouts. They are testing the weakened barriers." The first contact with the Devourers happened near the outer edge of the galaxy. A human patrol ship, the Explorer, was investigating reports of strange energy readings when they encountered something that should not have existed. "This is Captain Chris Turner of the Explorer," came the panicked radio message. "We have contact with something that is not from our reality. It is trying to break through into our space." The thing that appeared near the Explorer was difficult to describe. It seemed to exist in more dimensions than normal matter. It flickered in and out of reality, and wherever it appeared, space itself began to break down. The Explorer's weapons had no effect on the creature. Conventional missiles and energy beams passed right through it as if it was not really there. But then something unexpected happened. The awakened humans on the Explorer's crew began to glow with a faint blue light, the same light that came from progenitor technology. Suddenly, their weapons became effective. The Devourer Scout was forced to retreat back into the void between dimensions. But the encounter had shown everyone what they were really facing. Dr. Collins received a priority message from the custodian immediately after the encounter. The awakening process must be accelerated. More Devourer Scouts are approaching, and behind them comes something much worse. What do you mean? A full Devourer incursion. They have been testing our defenses for months, looking for weak points. They have found several. Within days, they will begin their assault on this galaxy. The news spread quickly through human space, and then to the Galactic Council. Suddenly, the ancient warnings made complete sense. The progenitors had not been afraid of humans. They had been afraid of what would happen to the galaxy if humans were not ready when the Devourers returned. General Lisa Carter contacted every member of the Galactic Council with the same message. The real enemy is coming. We can fight each other and let the galaxy be destroyed, or we can work together and have a chance to survive. But even as some alien races began to understand the truth, others remained convinced that humans were the greater threat. War Prime. Thekmer refused to believe that anything could be more dangerous than awakened humans. It is a trick, he declared. The humans are creating these illusions to make us afraid, so we will not attack them. The galaxy was splitting into two sides. Those who believed the warnings about the Devourers and wanted to work with humanity, and those who still saw humans as the primary threat. Time was running out to unite the galaxy before the real enemy. Arrived at the central nexus, Captain Barnes and her team worked frantically to repair the failing defenses. They were learning to use progenitor technology, but the process was slow, and the barriers around the galaxy were weakening faster than they could fix them. We need more awakened humans, Dr. Lopez reported. The central nexus is too big for our small team to maintain. We need thousands of people working together. But bringing more humans to the galactic core would take time they did not have. The Devourer Scouts were becoming more bold, testing the barriers in dozens of locations. And in the dark void beyond the galaxy, something vast and hungry was moving toward their reality, ready to consume everything that lived. The galaxy's greatest crisis began when the barriers finally broke. Admiral Chris Turner was commanding a patrol fleet near the galactic rim when the first major Devourer incursion began. What came through the dimensional breach was beyond anything the galaxy had ever faced. All ships, this is Admiral Turner, he said into his communication system. We have multiple contacts emerging from dimensional rifts. These things are not from our reality. The Devourers that came through were massive, shifting creatures that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. They moved through space by tearing holes in reality itself. Wherever they went, stars began to flicker and die, and the very fabric of space started to unravel. The alien fleets that had gathered to fight, humanity suddenly found themselves facing a much worse enemy. War Prime Thekmer's mighty Corvin warships fired everything they had at the approaching Devourers, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the creatures as if they were shooting at ghosts. Impossible, Thekmer muttered as he watched his most powerful weapons fail completely. Nothing can resist our firepower. But the human ships in Admiral Turner's fleet were different. The awakened humans aboard those ships began to glow with the same blue energy that came from progenitor technology. When they fired their weapons, the energy beams became solid and real, capable of hurting creatures that existed partially outside normal space. Human ships, Thekmer called on the emergency frequency. How are you able to harm these things? Admiral. Turner's voice came back calm and steady. Because we were designed for this. This is what humans were created to do. The battle raged for hours. More Devourer creatures poured through the dimensional rifts, but the human ships fought them with abilities that no other race possessed. The awakened humans could see the creatures in all dimensions, predict their movements, and strike them where they were most vulnerable. But there were too many devourers, and not enough awakened humans. Admiral Turner realized they needed help. From every human in the galaxy, Dr. Michelle Lopez was still at the central nexus when she received Turner's desperate call for reinforcements. She and Captain Kelly Barnes had been working with awakened humans to repair the galactic barriers, but the Devourer attack was overwhelming their defenses. "We need to accelerate the awakening process for every human in the galaxy," Dr. Lopez told the custodian AI. "Right now." "That is possible," the custodian replied, "but it will require a conscious choice from humanity as a whole. The awakening cannot be forced. Humans must willingly accept their role as galactic guardians." President Amanda Foster was in the emergency command center on Earth when she received the message from the central nexus. The choice was clear, but terrifying. Humanity could trigger the final awakening process and become something greater than they had ever been. But there would be no going back. "What exactly are you asking us to choose?" she asked Dr. Lopez during their long-range communication. "To become what we were always meant to be," Dr. Lopez replied. "To accept responsibility for protecting not just humanity, but every living thing in the galaxy. To become the guardians the progenitors intended us to be." The president looked around the room at her advisors. General Carter nodded. Admiral Hayes nodded. Dr. Grant nodded. One by one, every human leader agreed that they had no choice but to embrace their destiny. "Do it," President Foster said. "Activate the awakening protocol for all of humanity." The effect was immediate and incredible. Every human in the galaxy felt something change inside them. The dormant genetic programs left by the progenitors activated all at once. Suddenly, millions of humans could see across dimensions, interface with advanced technology, and work together in ways that seemed almost magical. On the battlefield, near the galactic rim, Admiral Turner felt his consciousness expand beyond his physical body. He could sense every human ship in his fleet, every alien ship that was fighting alongside them, and every devourer creature that threatened the galaxy. "All human ships," he broadcast, "link your minds with mine. Let us fight as one." The human fleet began moving with perfect coordination. They fought as a single organism, each ship knowing exactly what the others would do. The Devourers, for the first time since entering the galaxy, began to retreat, but the real change happened when they awakened. Humans began reaching out to the alien races that were fighting beside them. The Corvan ships that had been helpless against the Devourers suddenly found their weapons becoming effective when human crew members joined their ships and shared their abilities. "This is impossible," Horprime Thakmer said as he watched his weapons finally damage a devourer creature. "How are the humans doing this?" Commander Scott Adams, an awakened human who had been assigned to Thakmer's flagship, explained as they fought together. "We are not changing your weapons. We are changing how reality works around us. The progenitors gave us the ability to make the impossible become possible." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human diplomats were working with alien leaders to coordinate defenses. Human scientists were sharing progenitor technology with alien engineers. Human soldiers were serving alongside alien warriors, making their combined forces far more effective than either could be alone. Elder Sith Kar, who had always believed in the prophecies about humanity, found himself working directly with Dr. Peter Collins to establish communication networks across the galaxy. The ethereal communion's ancient wisdom, combined with human intuition, created strategies that surprised even the custodian AI. "Your people have a gift we never expected," Sithkar told Dr. Collins. "You can inspire others to be better than they thought possible." The tide of battle began to turn as more alien races joined the combined defense. The Zenthi Collective discovered that human minds could amplify their telepathic abilities. The Altarian traders found that human negotiators could convince even enemy races to work together. The machine intelligences of the Nexus learned that human creativity could solve problems their logical processors could not handle. But the greatest test came when the Devourer Queen appeared. She was a creature so vast that she stretched across multiple star systems. Her presence began unraveling reality on a massive scale, threatening to collapse the dimensional barriers around the entire galaxy. Every weapon that had worked against the smaller Devourers was useless against her. Captain Ryan Murphy, who had been one of the first humans to contact progenitor technology, volunteered to lead a desperate mission. He would take a ship equipped with the most advanced progenitor systems directly into the dimensional space where the Devourer Queen existed. "This is a one-way trip," he told his crew. "We are going to try to seal the dimensional rift from the inside." "We understand, Captain," said Lieutenant Tony Rodriguez. "Let us finish what the progenitors started." Murphy's ship, now called the Guardian, flew directly into the dimensional breach. As they entered the space between realities, the awakened humans aboard began to glow brighter than ever before. They were not just using progenitor technology anymore. They were becoming something that bridged the gap between the physical and the transcendent. The battle inside the dimensional rift was unlike anything that had ever happened in the galaxy's history. Captain Murphy and his crew fought the Devourer Queen not with weapons, but with pure will and the power that the progenitors had hidden in human DNA. In the end, they succeeded by doing something the Devourer Queen had never encountered before. Instead of trying to destroy her, they offered her something better. The awakened humans showed her that consuming galaxies was not the only way to exist. They offered her the chance to become something greater, just as the progenitors had become something greater when they transcended physical existence. The Devourer Queen, faced with this unexpected choice, chose to evolve rather than destroy. She withdrew her forces from the galaxy and disappeared into dimensions that no living being could imagine. The war was over, but the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity officially accepted their role as galactic guardians, but not as conquerors or rulers. They became the bridge between different species, the protectors against cosmic threats, and the keepers of ancient wisdom. Earth became the center of a new galactic government, but it was a government based on cooperation rather than domination. Every race had a voice, but humanity provided the leadership needed to face threats that no single species could handle alone. The ancient warnings were finally understood. They had not been warnings about humanity's danger to the galaxy. They had been warnings about what would happen to the galaxy if humanity was not ready when the time came to fulfill their destiny. In schools across human space, children learned about their heritage as the inheritors of the progenitors. They learned that with great power came great responsibility, and that their job was to protect all life in the galaxy. The awakened humans could still feel the presence of other threats in the vast darkness between galaxies. The Devourers had been just one of many cosmic dangers that waited beyond the barriers of reality. But now humanity was ready for whatever might come. The galaxy had new guardians, and for the first time in millions of years, all the living worlds could rest safely under their protection.